The 2017-2018 season is right around the corner and I am absolutely pumped for the start of the Premier League. Not only because my beloved club Newcastle United is finally back up into the Premier League after a season in the Championship, but because I think this season could prove to be one of the more interesting seasons we've had in recent times. And so here it is then, my 2017-2018 Premier League predictions. Let's go. Now, I did do one of these last season, and I think I did a meh job. I could have done a bit better, so I'm hoping to build on what I did last time. But I also learned that I need to stop dragging on when I'm talking about teams. I'm going to try to restrict myself talking to one team to no more than 30 seconds, just to, make sure that we get through it without this video going for half an hour. In 20th position, at the bottom of the table, I'm going with Burnley. And every single time I talk about Burnley, it kind of feels like Death Watch a little bit. I don't know. I kind of think that every single season they're really going to struggle, and that does tend to be the case. They only just seem to have survived the last couple of years that they've actually been in the Premier League. They've lost some very good players to them. George Boyd, not one of the best players in the world by any means, or one of the best players in the Premier League or anything, but he was very good for Burnley in my opinion. They've lost him going to Sheffield Wednesday. They've lost Michael Keane, who was sensational, and they haven't really brought a lot of very good names in, so I'm not too sure. It doesn't look like they've improved. And I kind of think that they're really going to struggle this year, and I'm going to have them in 20th. In 19th, the first team that came up into the Championship, it's going to be Huddersfield. I think Huddersfield haven't really brought in an awful lot of game changers as well, even though they have brought in a lot of names. I think they definitely needed to if they were going to be even a chance of competing at all. But I still think they're going to get relegated, and I think Aaron Moore's going to do his bit. He's going to try. He's going to try to drag them through to get up into the 17th and above positions, but I just don't think with the team that they have that they're going to be able to do it. In 18th position, I've got another team that came up into the Championship, and that will be Brighton. Now, before I actually say why I think they're going to finish 18th, I should say I think it's going to be very, very close between Brighton and the team that I put in 17th. I think Brighton are only just, maybe even on the last day, unfortunately going to have relegation put upon them. Now, I wouldn't be too surprised if Brighton did stay up because they were relatively consistent last season. They were easily one of, if not the best team in the Championship, but with that said, Newcastle beat them both times and finished with more points and finished as champions, so that's debatable. But I had to put someone in 18th, and I really struggled between this team and the team that I put 17th, but I think it will be Brighton that go down. The team I have in 17th is Swansea City, and really, I think the fact that Swansea City are in 17th and not in 18th, it really only comes down to one thing. If Swansea City lose Sigurdsson, if they sell him, even in January, if they sell Sigurdsson, if they don't keep him for the entire season, I think that they're going to take Brighton's 18th spot. However, with that said, Tammy Abraham, he was stunning in the Championship last season. I definitely think he can do it in the Premier League, and I'm very interested to see how he's going to do. He might be able to keep them up as well, but I think it's going to have to be a combined effort between Sigurdsson and Abraham. I think it's insane that they are not willing to sell Sigurdsson for 50-something million to Everton or to whatever club wants him. I think they know, just as much as I would like to think I do, how important he is to their survival hopes. In 16th, I have Crystal Palace. I think they've had a lack of activity. It doesn't really seem like they've improved on their team. However, they definitely do have some names that seem to have gotten even better, like Wilfried Zaha. Hopefully, he might be able to build on a sensational last season out for him. Yes, Loftus-Cheek, even on loan, might be able to help them out a bit. Riedewald as well looks like a nice signing, but I think Frank de Boer is going to be able to keep them up. In 15th position, I have Watford. Now, I kind of surprised myself with how highly I placed Watford, but then I remembered some of the names that they brought in, not just players as well, but their manager. Marco Silva was tremendous for Hull City toward the end of the season, even though they did eventually get relegated. It was just those last final games where they sort of just fell apart, but Marco Silva, I think, showed his quality, and he absolutely was going to go to another Premier League side. They're building a decent young side there, If they can remain in the Premier League, we might see them continue to climb the table, but I think it maybe won't be a comfortable finish for them, but yes, they will be in the Premier League, and they will finish 15th. In 14th position, and I'm sure a lot of you were wondering how long it was going to take for me to say my team, Newcastle. Well, this is where it is. 14th position. I have Newcastle in 14th. This, honestly, I have as a bit of an ambitious pick. I think this is a relatively, maybe almost somewhat biased pick because Newcastle, given off what we saw last season, and I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure, but I'm putting them 14th. I just think we need to settle in our first season. We brought in Florian Lejeune, I think that's how we say it, who looks class, or at least in preseason. I know that preseason is not an awful lot to go off, but he has looked very good when we saw him. We've been able to keep Christian Atsu, who'll hopefully be pretty good for us because he was great in the Championship. We'll hopefully be able to see a little bit more of Jacob Murphy, who looks very, very good and was sensational for Norwich last season. The big question mark for me is, will some of the star players in our team that were great in the Championship last season be able to carry that over into the Premier League? Guys like Dwight Gale and Matt Ritchie. I feel like we have a lot of guys that shine in the Championship but may struggle in the Premier League, and really, that's just the big what if there. And on top of that, I hope that we can just improve on our goal scoring a little bit, because while we seem to have bolstered up our defense and we look really good in that way, I'm not too sure about our goal scoring. All we have, our strikers anyway, are Jose Perez, who is good for the odd goal, Dwight Gale, who was amazing for us last season goal scoring wise, but of course, I mean, that's the Championship, and we know from his years in Crystal Palace that he's maybe not the most prolific of goal scorers. And then Mitro, who is, I want to see that guy do as well as possible, but the chances are, if he doesn't start banging in goals this season, he might leave Newcastle. But okay, let's get back on track here. 13th position, I've got West Bromwich Albion. They don't really seem to have improved an awful lot on the team that they had last season. They brought in bare minimal good names like, I don't know, Jay Rodriguez is maybe one, but... And to be fair, speaking of Jay Rodriguez, by the way, I went to the Premier League Asia Trophy and he scored a banging goal in front of me. So I don't know. I rate him a little bit. Maybe he might be good for them, but still, either way. I don't know. It's just every single year you have to get better. Your team, your squad depth, you have to keep getting better. That should be your goal. That is the bare minimum. I don't think West Brom have done that. And they had a pretty good season last time out, I would like to think, for their own expectations. So that's why I don't think they're going to do any better than they did last season. I'd be impressed if they did, but I have them 13th. In 12th position, I have Bournemouth. Now, this is a team that for the last couple of seasons I thought were on the verge of relegation or were going to get relegated, but they've been surprisingly consistent and very, very good when it comes to finishing in a mid-table position. Like, they finished, 9th or 10th last season out. They did surprisingly well. And I shouldn't be surprised because they've been able to do it for the last couple of seasons. They're also starting to build a relatively good side, and they've made some very good signings. For example, Jermaine Defoe. Can he still score goals? If he can, they may actually do better than this 12th place position. And rounding off the bottom 10, in 11th, I have got Stoke City. Now again, like I say, you want to improve your squad and you want to get better every single year. Stoke City, I don't think they've done that. Stoke City, even though they have brought in some good names like Kurt Zouma, who should be great for them, they have lost a lot of names like Marko Arnautovic as well, Jonathan Walters, although I know that that doesn't really matter either. They lost somebody else as well who was quite decent for them too. Anyway, there's a lot more outs with that team than there are in, so I'm not too sure. I don't think they'll be cracking top 10. I think they could even finish lower than this, but I do have them in 11th because last season, they got off to a very, very poor start. They were able to build and get a little better halfway through the season, but if Stoke City can get off to a little bit better of a start than they did last year, they should be able to finish mid-table comfortably. Now for the top 10, and in 10th position, I'm going to go with Southampton. This is going to sound like a bit of a reoccurring theme, but I don't know if they've again improved their squad. They have lost a lot of players, and they've barely made any signings in. I don't know if they have even made one. If they have, it's probably just a squad role player or a youth player or something like that. No one that's really going to improve their starting 11. I also have my doubts about, Maurizio Pellegrino. I know he sounds like he'd be a fucking amazing manager, but no, I have my doubts. If you look at his record, he's been, messing about in Spain. He was the Valencia manager for a little bit, although the last couple of seasons, Valencia haven't really been all too hot. His last job was at Alaves, and they ended up finishing mid-table in La Liga. So I kind of think if he can finish mid-table with a team like Alaves in La Liga, with the team that Southampton have, I don't think he can take them any further, but he should be able to keep them mid-table as well. So I think 10th is probably perfect for Southampton. In 9th position is Leicester City. Now, these guys, I think, have improved on their team. They've really improved their defense. They brought in some very nice defenders. They brought in Kelechi Iheanacho, who I think is a great get for them. A great get for almost any mid-table Premier League club. And I'm a little bummed out that Newcastle didn't go for him, to be totally honest. The fact that he's so young and so promising, and that he was compared, or maybe not compared, but he was put in comparison with Marcus Rashford as well. I think a sensational get for Leicester. He could be quite decent for them. And I think they probably still won't do anything amazing like go on and try to challenge for Champions League or goddamn win the Premier League again, but they should maybe be around about 9th position. They should be a lot better than they were last year. I know that when Craig Shakespeare took over after Ranieri was sacked and they had an awful start to last season, that they went on a streak of wins and they were really putting it together. I don't know if they'll be able to sustain that for an entire season, but they should be good and they shouldn't really be finishing any lower than 9th. In 8th position, I'm going to go with West Ham. West Ham have made some very impressive signings. Zabaleta, even though he is a bit old, I don't really think he's too past it. They've got Joe Hart as well, who he cops it quite a fair bit, but let's be real, he is a very good goalkeeper. I think Is he better than Adrian? I'm not too sure, but yeah, I think that's probably a slight improvement on their goalkeeping position. And then you've got, of course, the big one, Chicharito. He is absolutely going to be able to get them goals this year. And I know that they just go through strikers at West Ham team, but really, they have to do better. Last season for them, it was considered a bit of a disaster. They did not finish in a very good position. They really struggled at the start. And I think with one season at, of course, the London Stadium under their belt, they've surely got to do better. And with the incredible signings that they've brought in, they should be able to do quite nicely. I definitely expect them to do much, much better than they did last time out. So yes, I'm going to have West Ham in 8th position. Now in 7th, there's a team that I'm sure a lot of you are expecting me to put here. And you'd be right. Everton are going to go in 7th. They have had a banging transfer window, honestly, or at least when it comes to transfers in. They have done absolutely incredibly. Who have they got? Rooney. They've got Pickford. They've got Klaassen. They've got Sandro Ramirez, who I think is going to be great for them. But the fact is, he's a sensational replacement for really a bit of an irreplaceable player for them. The fact that they have lost Lukaku, they can bring in as many more players as they want that, aren't called Neymar, Messi, player of absolute quality. The fact that they've lost Lukaku, it's going to hurt them so much. But losing a player like Lukaku, who's good for something like around 20 goals in a season, there's no way that doesn't impact them and it doesn't impede them in a big way. I think Sandro Ramirez will still be quality, still be class. Rooney should be good for them, but in comparison to Lukaku, for them, how important he was, I don't really see them taking a step up, even after all these signings. That's how important Lukaku was to them. Now for the top 6, and all of these picks, I would like to think have been relatively comfortable. So here is my first big balls pick, Tottenham in 6th. I have several reasons to think, which might take me a little more than 30 seconds, to explain to you why I think Tottenham are going to struggle at Wembley compared to when they were at White Hart Lane. The fact that they are playing 19 or 20 plus games, if you include cup games, at Wembley, there's no way that it's not going to wear off on them, the fact that they are playing at Wembley. For every single team that they play at Wembley Stadium, it's going to be a gigantic occasion for them. Every single time that they play at home, their opposition are getting the chance to play at Wembley Stadium, which is something that any footballer should be absolutely ecstatic about, and they're going to give their best effort. The fact that Spurs already used Wembley Stadium last time out for their Champions League games, and that didn't really go too well for them either, that may be in the back of their mind a bit. The fact that they've already played several games at Wembley, I think the occasion is going to wear off on them. But it won't wear off on every single team that keeps on meeting them, even late on in the season. The fact that they're playing at Wembley, it's going to feel special. Then you've got the stadium switch itself. We saw it last season with West Ham, moving from Upton Park to the London Stadium. It kind of felt like moving to a stadium that they weren't super familiar with in their first season sort of didn't exactly help them out an awful lot. If we are going to go up for that, then I can't really see why it wouldn't have the same sort of negative effects on Tottenham as it did with West Ham. That and the fact that Tottenham just have not seemed to have invested at all. I can't name one player that they've brought in, and I even did the research. I swear, I don't think they've improved their side at all. As a matter of fact, they've only really gotten weaker, the fact that they've lost Kyle Walker. Anyway, let's move along. I think I spoke quite a fair bit about Tottenham there. Anyway, 5th position, I have Arsenal. Time to get used to the Europa League, lads. I don't think they'll finish in the top 4. I don't think they're getting Champions League again, maybe unless they do it through the Europa League if they win the whole competition, which, to be fair, they might. I do have them finishing above Tottenham in this pretty ballsy pick of mine, so, you're at least welcome for that, but again, Arsenal, I don't think you're going to really be able to improve on what you did last year. I kind of think Europa League will drag you down because you're a decent side for a Europa League team anyway, and you should go far in that competition, and as a result of that, I think that might impede you in the Premier League. The fact that they were able to keep Sanchez, I'm saying that with quotes because there's still time left, he could still go, but the fact that they probably held on to Sanchez and that they brought in Lacazette, finally Lacazette comes to the Premier League, and I'm not surprised he went to Arsenal, but yeah, even though they brought in those names and they've been able to retain those names, I am just not so sure. And then there's going to be a lot of negativity around Wenger keeping his job. Every single loss, every single bad result, even some of the fucking draws against maybe lower league sides is going to be blown way out of proportion by the Wenger out brigade within the Arsenal fan base. And I think that sort of negativity may pile itself onto the club a little bit more. If anything, Arsenal fans, I almost sort of had you in 4th. I think it's very close between you and the team that I put in 4th position. And that team is Liverpool. They have made some very nice improvements to their team. They've bought players in key areas. For example, at left back, Andrew Robertson. I don't know if he's the world's best left back, but he does look quality. And I think he should do hopefully a better job than James Milner. To be fair, James Milner was okay at left back, but he's just not a left back. They should be one of the best running teams, if not the best running team in the competition this year at Liverpool, maybe closely followed by Arsenal. I know that's a bit of a strange prediction to say. Arsenal, a really good running team, but trust me, they've just brought in a new fitness coach and he's going to do business. But I only just have them finishing in 4th, only just qualifying for the Champions League. It may be one of those things where it goes right to the final day to decide their position 4th and 5th between Liverpool and Arsenal. That's what I'm predicting anyway. Now for the top 3, we have both Manchester clubs and of course the current Premier League champions Chelsea left to go. Who's going to finish in 3rd? I'm going to go with Manchester United. They haven't made an extraordinary amount of signings, but every single player they have bought is a big improvement on their team. Lindelof looks class and he's quite young and can continue to get better. Matic is a massive one for them as well because of course it lessens Pogba's defensive role a little bit and he should be able to have a massive season, Pogba. He should be able to go forward and be a little bit more free with his attack and he could maybe have a gigantic season. I think they're definitely going to be able to win a lot more games and going to be able to stack up more points than they did last time out and not draw 0-0, 1-1 and go on the world's shittest unbeaten run ever. I think they'll be able to tack up a lot more wins, get more points, climb that table. Are they finishing in a Champions League spot? Yes. Are they winning the league? I'm not so sure. I'd be surprised if they jump from 6th right to 1st immediately, but I don't know. I think they'll improve. But then again, I say that every single season and they continue to just finish so far below where I think they are. I'm going to have them 3rd. I might have put them in 2nd if they weren't the constant disappointment when it comes to their league finishes for the last couple of seasons they have been. Instead, I put Chelsea in 2nd. I look at their team right now, compare it to the team they had last season, and I really can't see anything to see why they couldn't go on to win the Premier League again. But I'm not going to have them in the top spot. I'm just going to put them in 2nd. I don't exactly expect them to be dominating like they were last season. I don't expect them to win 10 or 11 or God knows how many games in a row right out the gates like they did last season. I don't expect that to happen. If they do, then hell, who knows? They might be able to go on and win the title. But I think they'll probably still end up finishing 2nd. They're still just as good a side as they were last year. And they have improved. Morata, say what you will. I don't really know if he's a real good starting striker for them in comparison to Diego Costa. And Costa is still at Chelsea at this point. Everyone expects him to go, but he's still there. He might still line up in their starting 11. They've got Bakayoko in, who I think is a pretty good signing for at least replacing Matic. They have lost a couple of decent defenders, but they brought in Rudiger. I don't really think they've taken a step forward or back with their squad at all. Unless they can improve on the great season they had last time out, which I don't really think they will, I'm going to have them finishing in 2nd. And the one team that's left, the team that I have got on top, one of the safest picks ever, for winning the Premier League this season, it's going to be Manchester City, and you knew that it would be, because they are the team, out of every single team in the Premier League, that have to, fucking surely, should win the Premier League. I have no fucking regrets. When I was building this table, they were the first team that I put in there. Manchester City, right up the top. The unbelievable squad depth that they have, the incredibly class players, the fact that they spend just 200 million on fucking defenders. Manchester City probably spend more money on defense than most countries around the world. It's bullshit. They have such amazing depth, just stars in every single position. They had players that were injured last season for quite a fair bit, like Gundogan, who are hopefully going to eventually come back and they'll just continue to add to the amazing team that they have. And this is Pep Guardiola's last chance as well. I think anything but the title is a fucking bust for him. He claims, we all build him up as this incredible manager, one of, if not the best in the world. And if he has this team that is by far on paper the best in the country and in the league, and he doesn't get this title, I think that's it for him. If everything goes to plan and Manchester City do perform to expectation and don't underperform like they have done in the last season or two, then they should be able to win this Premier League title. And I think we'll be seeing Man City lifting up the trophy at the end of the season. But this is my 2017-2018 Premier League prediction. Let me know what you think about it in the comments down below, and do not hold back. I also want to see your Premier League predictions as well. I'll see you in 9 months, guys, when we eventually react to how I did with this Premier League prediction, which I'm hoping it will be a little bit better than what we did last time out, but still, that will do it for me. Until next time, guys, my name is MasterBucks. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We are trying to hit 10 million subs by the end of the year, but anyway, thanks for watching. Until next time, have a good one. Bye-bye.